House progressives are taking a stand, or so they tweet. That is what we've gotten, as AOC has tweeted out, and I'll quote it here. House progressives are standing up. If Senator Manchin and the rest of the Senate approve the reconciliation bill, then we will approve their bipartisan bill. But if they try to strip immigration reform, childcare, climate action, etc., then we're at an impasse. It's a no-go. And Politics Insider reports that AOC vows progressives will tank the bipartisan infrastructure bill if a reconciliation bill, including more care economy and climate change measures, isn't passed in tandem. So this is pretty significant. In my other video, I kind of talked about the current status of the reconciliation bill and what it's containing right now. But this is pretty big because essentially up until now, it's been tough because you have progressives that were elected to Congress with this, a lot of supporters have wanted to see those progressives fight to hold people that are more moderate like Biden, Joe Manchin, a couple of those other folks that are a lot more ideologically aligned with, almost with Republicans than even with Democrats, but still recognize themselves as Democrats, still kind of control party politics from a lot of leadership positions. And so up until now, when people like Joe Manchin said no, it was pretty much just, couldn't really do anything about it. And so, when we were debating on the relief bill, when we debated on several other pieces of legislation, they've mostly fallen by the wayside because of centrists within the party. Centrists within the party also have stopped Democrats from really seriously considering abolishing or reforming the filibuster, which is an archaic rule that's pretty much meant to preserve minority parties' ability to kind of still block legislation or still kind of exercise some control. And so, it really doesn't belong right now in the form that it's in because it's way too easy to filibuster. Anybody can do it for any reason on any bill, basically. Except for budget reconciliation, which is why the Democrat bill, the one that's expected to go with 51 votes, is reconciliation, so that they can actually manage to get some things passed. But essentially, what hasn't happened until now is progressives, with the possible exception, depending on how you want to look at it, of Bernie, have pretty much neglected to play some serious hardball with President Biden. Historically, it's really difficult to really strongly oppose on something the president of your own party. And so it's been a little bit of a scary thing for, the squad of AOC, Pramila Jayapal, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, this whole sect of more progressive members of Congress, some of them being Democratic Socialists, some of them just progressives. It's been hard for them to feel comfortable putting a real stand where they say, hey, we're going to tank this unless you put this provision in there. And realistically, they could just decide one day that, hey, we're not going to pass anything. We're going to vote everything down unless you meet these demands. And ultimately, because of how thin the majorities are in Congress right now, they would actually command a decent amount of power by declaring those things. But on the contrary, I would also say it really depends where you do this strategically, because I do think that there is political capital that you can either build or waste, depending on what you kind of dig your heels in on. And so I think this is a smart area to be, really, really driving a hard bargain, because this is climate change. This is something that so many people are seeing and feeling right around them in their communities. I mean, you're seeing cable cars in Portland literally melt due to heat waves that are historic. You're seeing the highest recorded temperature ever in Death Valley. You're seeing all sorts of signs outwardly now that our climate is changing and that our world is just becoming less and less habitable. And so it is really frightening. It's really frightening to be a young person right now. And so AOC is wise to say, you know what, we're going to drive a hard bargain on this. We're going to make sure that every provision that's related to climate is well funded. We're going to make sure that we do immigration reform that people are really looking for. And if they're smart, I mean, they're going to really try to keep all of these things in this legislation and actually get them passed. And so what's really cool about this is that, essentially on the Senate side, you've got Bernie, who put out a really ambitious proposal that he almost certainly knew was going to get negotiated down. And so because he started out with $6 trillion of a proposal, it's gotten whittled down to 3.5, which is still a significant investment. And then on the other hand, you've got AOC and the squad members in the House who, if their rhetoric is to be believed, are going to make sure that these things stay in all the way to get to the House where they would vote on them. And if they don't stay in, then AOC and the squad have indicated that they're going to tank this entire proposal for Democrats. So essentially they're saying, hey, we have you in a bind. We've got people in the Senate and we've got people in the House who are going to tank this if we don't get the provisions that we're asking for. And it remains to be seen. I mean, politics is, a tricky game. People have to play these kind of power dynamics as best they can. It remains to be seen if that's going to all work out and it's all going to go hunky-dory. But this is a lot better energy, I think, to see than what we've been seeing. I was really disappointed with what happened in the $15 minimum wage fight. I don't really feel like there was a really strong fight. I do feel like Bernie did the right thing with that, where he made sure it went to a vote and he made sure he got Democrats on the record as voting against it, which is definitely solid because that is a list of names that we can primary in 2022 and 2024 whenever their elections are coming. But, I don't feel like House members really backed him up on that, and I don't feel like they really have backed up a lot of these efforts to get more progressive policies, because I think there's been a fear of going against the party and looking like a really bad person or earning the ire of a lot of these like loyal Democratic supporters that are maybe less critical of the establishment. And so I think that now you're seeing that turn where people are really starting to demand things and they really want to see real concessions. We're at that point where there's not a whole lot of there's not a whole lot of runway before you get to those midterms. And I know I've been kind of nailing into that each video pretty much, but this infrastructure bill is going to be a really big part of that. So it's exciting to see the squad actually start to do some things that are going to really affect big policy initiatives, and I really I'm hoping that they're successful.